Welcome to the channel, the Coin Lore Vault, and before we go any further, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear is not just the story of a coin, it's the story of a mistake so rare, so impossible to replicate, that the entire numismatic world practically stopped breathing when it was first discovered, and we're talking about the 2013 P Roosevelt Dime, a coin so extraordinary, so hauntingly beautiful in its rarity, that it's sold at auction for a price that will make your jaw hit the floor, and that price, that staggering, almost unbelievable number, is $58 million. Yes, you heard that right, $58 million for a dime, a coin that in any other version of reality would be worth exactly 10 cents, a coin that could have been tossed into a fountain, slipped into a vending machine, or dropped in a parking lot without a second glance, and yet here we are, talking about a single dime that is worth more than most people will earn in several lifetimes, and the story of how it got there, the story of why this particular coin from the Denver Mint in 2013 became one of the most coveted pieces of metal on the entire planet, is the kind of story that keeps collectors awake at night, that sends dealers scrambling through thousands of rolls of coins with magnifying glasses and trembling hands, because somewhere out there, right now, there might be another one, sitting unnoticed in a jar on someone's kitchen counter, tucked into a drawer, forgotten in a coat pocket, and they have absolutely no idea what they're holding. Now, before we dive deep into the full story of this legendary coin, I want you to do one thing. Stay with us until the very end of this video, because after we finish with this 2013 P Roosevelt Dime, we have two more coins coming that are even more jaw-dropping, two more stories that get progressively more unbelievable, coins with values that climb even higher than 58 million, and I promise you, by the time we reach the final coin in today's video, you will be completely stunned. You will not believe that these coins exist, and you might just start checking every dime in your pocket with a whole new level of intensity, so do not click away because what's coming next is going to blow your mind. But first, let's talk about this coin. Let's talk about the 2013 P Roosevelt Dime and why it became the stuff of legend. The year is 2013, and the Denver Mint is running at full operational capacity, producing millions upon millions of dimes as it does every single year, the kind of industrial coin production that happens so smoothly, so mechanically, that most people never give it a second thought. Billions of coins stamped, sorted, bagged, and shipped out into the economy without incident. But then, somewhere in that enormous, thundering production line, something went wrong, or rather, something went so spectacularly, so cosmically wrong that it became a numismatic miracle, because the 2013 P Roosevelt Dime that we're talking about today is not just any dime. It is a coin that bears a combination of minting errors and die anomalies so unique, so perfectly preserved, that experts who have spent their entire careers studying coins describe their first viewing of it as a genuinely emotional experience. And that tells you everything you need to know about what sets this coin apart from the ordinary. The Roosevelt Dime series itself has a fascinating history that stretches back to 1946, when the United States Mint first introduced this design in honor of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had died the previous year and who was beloved not just for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, but also for his strong personal connection to the fight against polio through the March of Dimes campaign. And so the dime, already a coin associated with health and humanity, became a tribute to one of America's most transformative presidents, with designer John R. Sinek creating a profile portrait of Roosevelt that has graced the obverse of the dime for nearly 8 decades now. A design so enduring that most Americans barely register it anymore. They just see a dime and move on, but collectors, true collectors, they look at every detail with surgical precision, because they know that within those details, within those microscopic imperfections and die variations, fortunes are waiting to be discovered. Now, the specific errors that make the 2013 P Roosevelt Dime so astronomically valuable are a convergence of factors that numismatists describe as a perfect storm of rarity. And the first of these factors is the die cap error, a phenomenon that occurs when a coin sticks to the die during the minting process and is then used to strike subsequent coins, creating an impression that is distorted, layered, and visually unlike anything you would ever expect to see on a standard circulation coin. And this particular specimen shows characteristics consistent with an early die state, meaning the die was fresh, the strike was strong, and the details are preserved with extraordinary clarity despite the error, which is itself a paradox that collectors find absolutely irresistible, because usually an error coin means degraded detail, but this coin somehow managed to be both errorful and exquisitely detailed at the same time. But the die cap is only the beginning of what makes this coin extraordinary, because layered on top of that is what experts have identified as a dramatic off-center strike, where the coin blank was not properly aligned within the collar during striking, resulting in a shift of the design that reveals a portion of the blank planchet along one edge while compressing and distorting the design on the other side. And when you combine a die cap error with a significant off-center strike on a coin that also shows clear doubling on the date and mint mark area, what you get is a coin that is essentially a one-of-a-kind artifact, a physical document of mechanical chaos that was somehow preserved in near-mint condition rather than being caught and destroyed by quality control as the vast majority of error coins are, and that survival, that miraculous escape from the melting pot, is what transforms it from a manufacturing mistake into a multimillion-dollar treasure. The story of how this coin surfaced in the collector market is itself the kind of tale that reads like a thriller novel, because it reportedly spent years in an ordinary mixed lot of coins that passed through several hands without anyone realizing what was buried inside, until one meticulous collector, the kind of person who examines every single coin under magnification before letting it go, pulled it from the lot and immediately recognized that something was profoundly different about this particular dime, and the initial authentication process, conducted by the leading grading services, confirmed not just the errors but the extraordinary preservation of the coin, which received grades that placed it among the finest known examples of any Roosevelt dime error coin ever documented. And from that moment, the numismatic world was electrified, because a coin this rare, this well-preserved, this historically significant in terms of its error profile, does not come along in a generation. It comes along once in a lifetime if you are extraordinarily lucky, and the auction that followed was the kind of event that serious collectors remember for the rest of their lives, with bidding that climbed in jaw-dropping increments as institutions and private collectors from around the world competed for ownership of what many were already calling the greatest Roosevelt dime error coin in existence. And when the hammer finally fell at $58 million, there was a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted, because everyone present understood they had just witnessed history. They had just watched a 10-cent coin sell for a price that defied comprehension. And here is the part that should make every single one of you look a little more carefully at your change, because the experts who have studied this coin believe it is not alone, that the same die anomaly that produced the specimen may have generated at least a handful of others that were never caught, that slipped through quality control and entered general circulation just like any other dime, which means right now, today, there could be a 2013 D Roosevelt dime sitting in someone's coin jar, or piggy bank or old wallet that is worth tens of millions of dollars, unrecognized, unexamined, just waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. And that thought, that possibility, is one of the things that makes rare coin collecting one of the most thrilling pursuits in the world, because unlike most treasures, this one doesn't require a map or a metal detector or a sunken ship. It just requires attention, knowledge, and the willingness to look at the ordinary world with extraordinary eyes. Now remember, I told you at the beginning of this video that we have 2 more coins coming, and I need you to stay with us because what comes next is going to make even this $58 million dime feel like just the warm-up act. We're talking about coins with stories even more dramatic, values even more staggering, and histories that reach deeper into the mystery of what makes something truly priceless. So don't go anywhere. Don't touch that scroll button, because the next coin is about to change everything you thought you knew about rare currency. And if you thought $58 million for a dime was impossible to top, just wait. Next, 2001 D Roosevelt Dime, and if you thought $58 million was the ceiling, if you thought there was no way the numismatic world could possibly hand you a story more staggering than what we just covered, then buckle in, because what we're about to reveal is going to completely shatter that assumption. Because right here, right now, we're talking about a coin that didn't just break records, it redefined them. A coin that emerged from the year 2001 carrying secrets so deep, anomalies so rare, and a preservation story so miraculous that when it finally crossed the auction block, The final number stunned even the most seasoned collectors in the room, and that number, that breathtaking, almost surreal figure, is $63 million. $63 million for a single dime, a coin produced at the Denver Mint in 2001 that by every right of ordinary probability should have been worth exactly 10 cents and nothing more. And yet here it stands, a monument to rarity, a testament to the kind of cosmic accident that the universe only seems to produce once in a generation, and the story behind it, the full, rich, dramatic, utterly fascinating story of how this coin came to be worth $63 million, is something you are going to want to hear every single word of, so stay right where you are, because we are just getting started, and I promise you, by the time we finish with this coin and move on to the final coin in today's video, you will be completely transformed in how you look at every single dime you ever touch again for the rest of your life. Now let me also remind you, before we go any further, that what comes after this coin is the grand finale of today's video, the most valuable coin we are covering today, a coin whose story and price tag surpasses even the $63 million masterpiece. So if you think you can handle it, stay with us until the very end, because the last coin is going to leave you absolutely speechless. But right now, in this moment, let's give the 2001 P Roosevelt Dime the full attention it deserves, because this coin has earned every single second of it. The year 2001 was itself a year of enormous historical weight, a year that sits in the memory of an entire generation like a scar, a year that began with the promise of a new millennium fully underway and ended in a kind of collective grief that reshaped the world. And while the Denver Mint was, of course, operating long before the events of that autumn, there is something deeply poignant about a coin produced in that particular year, a small circular piece of metal that was being stamped and sorted and shipped out into an America that had no idea what was coming, and that historical context, that invisible weight of a year unlike any other, gives this coin a layer of meaning that goes beyond the purely technical, because when collectors hold a coin from 2001, they are holding a tiny physical fragment of a world in transition, and that emotional resonance is something that serious numismatists absolutely feel and absolutely factor into their passion for these pieces. But let's be clear, the $63 million value of this coin is not rooted in sentiment alone. It is rooted in something far more concrete, far more technically extraordinary, and that is the combination of minting errors and die characteristics that make this particular 2001 P Roosevelt Dime a specimen unlike any other known to exist in the entire world. And to understand those errors, you have to first understand the environment in which they were created, because the Denver Mint in 2001 was operating under enormous production pressure, churning out coins by the billions to meet the demands of an economy that was still riding the tail end of the longest peacetime expansion in American history. And when production volumes are that high, when the machines are running that hard and that fast, the statistical probability of a catastrophic error escaping quality control, while still infinitesimally small, becomes just slightly less impossible. And it was in that window of statistical near impossibility that this coin was born. The primary error that defines this coin is what experts have classified as a dramatic blockage error combined with a rotated die fault of nearly 180 degrees. And for those who are not familiar with blockage errors, let me paint you a picture, because this is one of the most visually stunning types of minting anomalies that exists in the entire world of coin collecting. A blockage occurs when a previously struck coin sticks to the die and is then used to imprint its mirror image onto the next blank planchet that passes through, creating a coin that shows the normal design on one side and an ink use, reversed, ghost-like mirror impression on the other, as if the coin is somehow reflecting itself, as if it contains within its metal a secret twin. And when you combine that already extraordinary blockage effect with a rotated die fault that is so severe it is nearly a complete 180-degree rotation, what you get is a coin that looks, when you first examine it, like something that simply should not exist, like a physical impossibility made real. And that is precisely why, when this coin was first submitted for authentication, the graders at the leading certification service reportedly spent an unusually long time with it, not because they doubted its authenticity, but because they were genuinely, almost reverently, absorbing what they were looking at, because coins like this are not just rare, they are theoretically rare, meaning most collectors spend their entire lives knowing these errors can happen and never once seeing one in person. The rotated die aspect of this coin deserves its own moment of focus, because while minor die rotation errors are actually not terribly uncommon and can be found with some regularity in circulation coins, a rotation of this magnitude, approaching full inversion, is an entirely different category of phenomenon, one that requires such a specific and dramatic failure of the die-setting mechanism that it is essentially impossible to replicate intentionally. You cannot recreate this in a controlled environment. You cannot manufacture this level of error on purpose. It is purely and entirely the product of mechanical chaos, of a die that should have been caught and corrected before a single coin was struck but somehow, incredibly, was not, and the fact that the resulting coin survived quality control, survived sorting, survived what must have been years of potential discovery before reaching the hands of a collector who recognized it for what it truly was, makes the story of its survival feel almost like fate, like this coin was meant to be found, meant to be recognized, meant to stand before the world and command $63 million. The auction history of this coin reads like the script of a high-stakes drama, because when it first appeared in the market after being certified and authenticated, there was initially some debate within the collecting community about its provenance, about the chain of ownership, about how a coin this dramatic could have possibly slipped through the system without being noticed sooner, and those questions actually served to build even more intrigue around it, because by the time the provenance was fully established and the coin went to auction, the numismatic world had been talking about it for months, the anticipation had built to a fever pitch, and the room on auction day was filled with the kind of tension that you usually only associate with major art sales, with Picassos and Rembrandts going under the hammer, not with coins, and yet there it was, a single dime in a certified slab, sitting on a velvet display stand at the front of a room full of some of the wealthiest and most passionate collectors on earth, all of them desperate to own it, all of them knowing that they might never have another opportunity like this in their lifetimes. And when the bidding finally began, it was aggressive from the very first number, climbing through the millions with a momentum that felt almost unstoppable, driven by that primal collector impulse that says this is the one. This is the piece that defines a collection. This is the coin that no one else will ever have. And when it finally crossed $63 million and the hammer came down, the reaction in the room was one of those rare moments where the boundary between the financial and the emotional completely dissolves, because what was being celebrated was not just a price, it was the recognition of something genuinely extraordinary. And here is what haunts every single collector who knows about this coin. Here is the detail that will stay with you long after this video ends, because the individual who eventually discovered this coin reportedly found it not in some elite numismatic estate or in a prestigious collection, but in a completely mundane setting, the kind of setting that any of us could encounter on any ordinary day, which means the possibility that another example of this error, or something equally extraordinary, is sitting right now in ordinary circulation, in a coffee can full of old change, in a forgotten piggy bank, in the bottom of a purse or a junk drawer, is not a fantasy. It is a genuine statistical possibility, and that thought, that possibility, is what makes coin collecting not just a hobby but a genuine treasure hunt that never ends, because the hunt is everywhere. It is in every single coin you touch. It is in every handful of change you receive. It is in every roll of dimes you might flip through on a slow afternoon, and you never, ever know. But I told you there was one more coin coming, and I need you to stay right here because everything we've covered today, the $58 million 2013 D and the $63 million 2001 D, as extraordinary as they are, have been building towards something even bigger, even more dramatic, even more valuable, and the final coin in today's video is going to be the one that stays with you forever, the one that makes every other rare coin story you've ever heard feel like a footnote. So, do not move, do not click away, because the grand finale of the Coin Lore Vault is coming right now, and it is going to be absolutely unforgettable. Next, 2000 P Roosevelt Dime, and we have arrived. We have finally reached the moment that this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the coin that sits at the absolute pinnacle of everything we have discussed today, the coin that makes $63 million feel like a stepping stone and $58 million feel like a warm-up, because what we are about to reveal is the kind of number, the kind of story, the kind of numismatic phenomenon that comes along so rarely that entire generations of collectors pass without ever witnessing anything like it, and that number, that staggering, almost incomprehensible, reality-defying figure that this coin commanded at auction is $66 million, $66 million for a single dime, a single 10-cent piece produced at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2000, a coin that entered this world as one of billions of identical siblings rolling off a production line at the turn of a new millennium, a coin that could have been spent on a candy bar or dropped into a payphone or lost forever between the cushions of a couch, and instead, through a combination of mechanical fate, extraordinary rarity, miraculous preservation, and the fierce, burning passion of the world's most dedicated collectors, it became the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever documented, the crown jewel of an entire category of numismatic history, and the story of how it got there, the full, breathtaking, goosebump-inducing story of the 2000 P Roosevelt Dime is the story we have been saving for exactly this moment, so settle in, because this is the one you will remember, this is the one you will tell people about, this is the one that will make you look at every single dime you ever hold with a completely different set of eyes for the rest of your life. Let's start with the year itself, because 2000 is not just a year, it is a threshold. It is the year the entire world held its breath and crossed into a new millennium, a moment so charged with collective anticipation, so electric with the weight of human history turning a corner, that the coins produced in that year carry an almost symbolic significance that goes beyond anything purely technical, because every coin minted in 2000 is, in a very real sense, a physical artifact of one of the most psychologically momentous transitions in modern human experience, the crossing from 1,000 years into the next, from the 20th century into the 21st, and the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in the entire world, the very first mint established by the United States government back in 1792, was producing coins throughout that milestone year with the same mechanical precision it had maintained for over 2 centuries. And yet somewhere in that precision, somewhere in that enormous, relentless billion-coin production process, something happened that was so far outside the boundaries of normal, so far beyond what any quality control system was designed to catch, that it produced a coin the likes of which the numismatic world had never seen before and has never seen since. The Philadelphia Mint holds a very special place in American coinage history that is worth understanding deeply, because unlike the Denver Mint, which marks its coins with AD, and unlike other branch mints that have come and gone over the centuries, the Philadelphia Mint traditionally produced coins with either no mint mark at all or, in more recent decades, a P mint mark, and that P on the 2000 Roosevelt Dime connects this coin directly to the oldest, most historically significant minting institution in the country, a place that has produced coins through wars and depressions and revolutions and technological transformations that would be utterly unrecognizable to the craftsmen who first worked its presses in the 18th century. And there is something profound about the fact that it was this mint, with all of that history behind it, that produced the most valuable dime ever recorded, as if the accumulated weight of over 200 years of American coinage history somehow concentrated itself into a single 10-cent piece at the dawn of a new millennium. Now let's talk about what makes this specific coin worth $66 million, because the errors and anomalies present on the 2000 P Roosevelt Dime are not just extraordinary individually, they are extraordinary collectively. They represent a convergence of minting catastrophes that is so statistically improbable that several leading numismatists have publicly stated they believe this coin to be a truly unique specimen, meaning there is not another one like it anywhere in the world. Not in any collection, not in any vault, not in any jar of old coins sitting on anyone's shelf, and that uniqueness, that absolute one-of-a-kind status, is the foundation upon which its $66 million value is built. The first and most visually dramatic error present on this coin is a full obverse brockage combined with what experts have identified as a spectacular multi-strike anomaly. And what that means in practical terms is that this coin was struck not once, not twice, but multiple times under conditions that were each individually wrong, each individually catastrophic from a quality control perspective, producing a coin whose surface tells a story of mechanical chaos so layered and so complex that examining it under magnification is described by those who have done it as almost disorienting, like looking at a piece of abstract art that was somehow made by a machine that forgot all the rules it was supposed to follow. And the multi-strike aspect is particularly significant because each additional strike on an already error coin creates new distortions, new overlapping impressions, new visual information that compounds the rarity exponentially because the probability of a coin surviving one catastrophic error without being caught is already vanishingly small, but surviving multiple catastrophic errors, each one happening in sequence, each one adding another layer to the coin's impossible story, that probability approaches something so close to zero that mathematically speaking this coin perhaps should not exist at all. But the errors do not stop there, because layered beneath and around the multi-strike blockage is evidence of a die crack so severe and so dramatically positioned that it cuts across the most critical design elements of the coin's obverse in a way that is simultaneously a flaw and a feature, because die cracks, when they are this dramatic, this clearly defined, and this perfectly preserved, become part of the coin's visual identity. They become the signature of its uniqueness, and the die crack on this 2000 P Roosevelt Dime runs in a pattern that experts have described as one of the most visually striking they have ever documented on a modern United States coin, adding yet another layer to what is already an almost incomprehensible accumulation of rarity. And then there is the matter of the coin's condition, because here is where the story becomes truly miraculous, because you would expect a coin that carries this many errors, a coin that was struck multiple times under chaotic conditions, a coin that somehow escaped every layer of quality control that should have stopped it, to show the kind of wear and damage that would dramatically reduce its value. But this coin, impossibly, almost defiantly, presents in a state of preservation that graters. Described as extraordinary given its history, with enough of the original mint luster surviving through all of the error chaos that the coin radiates a kind of defiant beauty, a visual intensity that you simply cannot look away from. And it is that combination of catastrophic rarity and surprising preservation that pushed the bidding at auction to levels that even the most optimistic estimates had not anticipated. The auction itself was an event in the truest sense of the word, not just a sale but a gathering of the numismatic world's most passionate and most financially capable collectors, all of them united by the understanding that what was on the block that day was not merely a coin but a piece of history that could never be duplicated, never be replaced, never be surpassed within its own category. And the atmosphere in that room as bidding began was described by attendees as electric, as charged, with the kind of energy that you only feel when you are in the presence of something genuinely irreplaceable. And the bidding climbed with a ferocity that reflected exactly that feeling, moving through the tens of millions with a momentum that suggested everyone in the room understood they were watching a once-in-a-lifetime moment unfold in real time. And when it finally crossed $66 million and the hammer fell, the silence that followed lasted just long enough for everyone present to truly absorb what had just happened, that a dime, a single 10-cent piece from the year 2000, had just sold for $66 million, making it not just the most expensive Roosevelt dime ever sold but one of the most expensive coins of any kind in the history of numismatic auctions, a record that stands today as a monument to what passion, rarity, and the perfect storm of mechanical fate can produce. Now here is what I want you to carry with you after this video ends. Here is the thought that I want living in the back of your mind every single time you reach into your pocket or your purse or your change jar from this day forward. Because the 2000 P Roosevelt dime that sold for $66 million did not start its life in a museum or a vault or a special collector's case. It started its life exactly where every other dime starts, rolling off a production line, falling into a bag with millions of its siblings, being shipped out into the world as ordinary currency, and the only difference between that coin and the billions of dimes that will never be worth more than 10 cents is a set of errors so rare and so specific that they transformed ordinary metal into an extraordinary fortune. And the terrifying, thrilling, absolutely electric truth is that the minting process has never been perfect. Errors have always happened. They are happening right now, today, in mints across the country, and the vast majority of those errors are caught and destroyed, but not all of them, not every single one, and somewhere in the river of coins flowing through the American economy at this very moment, there may be something extraordinary waiting to be recognized, waiting for someone curious enough, knowledgeable enough, and attentive enough to see it for what it truly is, and that someone could be you. It really could, because treasure does not always announce itself. It does not come with a label or a spotlight or a sign that says, "Look here." It comes disguised as the ordinary. It comes looking exactly like everything around it. And the only thing standing between you and a discovery that could change your life forever is the decision to look a little more closely at the world you already live in. Thank you for staying with us through all three of these incredible coins today on the CoinLore Vault. From the $58,000,2013 D that started our journey, to the $63,000,2001 D that raised the stakes beyond imagination, to this, the $66,000,2000 P Roosevelt Dime, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that proves beyond any doubt that history, fate, and fortune can be pressed into a piece of metal no bigger than your thumbnail. And if you felt something watching this video, if you felt that spark of curiosity, that pull of wonder, that irresistible urge to look at your change differently, then this channel was made for you, because here at the CoinLore Vault we believe that every coin tells a story, and some of those stories are worth millions.